People start sending me their leather coats, their leather clothes that they were no longer wearing for me to upcycle them into bags for them. It's the reason why we have so much waste in the United States because we don't have tailors, really. And so if something doesn't fit anymore or you lose a button or the zipper breaks, people just throw it in the trash and buy another one. The average American throws about 90 pounds of clothing in the trash each year. And I don't think they thought about or cared about the repercussion of all the waste that we would inherit because people can't make simple alterations to their clothes. They just throw them in the trash.
But people want to
And
look good all
so,
the time, and they don't want to wear one clothes twice. And people are always pretending to be what they're not. So they keep buying clothes even if they don't have food to eat. They would rather buy a new dress because they don't want people to say, "Oh, you won that dress before, and you still wearing it again." I'd love you to walk me through your journey in the sustainable fashion space.
sure. My name is Terina Nicole Hill, and I design a line of leather handbags and accessories called Eco. I'm sorry, I I own a few businesses. One of my businesses is called Eco Fashion Lab, but that's not the one we're talking about right now. The business that I've owned the longest is Gypsy Leather Goods, and it is a line of leather handbags and accessories that I've designed since the year 2001. So it's been about almost 24 years. And I didn't start the business thinking that I was starting something eco friendly or sustainable at the time because it wasn't really on my radar. I was in school. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology and I was earning my degree in accessory design. And so I thought that I would just launch a handbag line of luxury products made with beautiful exotic skin and suede linings and the best hardware. And so when I launched my small collection of bags, I started selling them in these shopping parties that I would have in my own home. And then my guests would invite me into their homes and, showcase my collection to their friends and family. And so I was getting a lot of feedback. I was selling a lot of my small accessories, but the handbags, people were telling me they were outside of their comfort zone when it came to price, right? And I found that very surprising because these women all own like designer handbags, the Louis Vuittons, the Gucci's. And so I felt that it was odd that they didn't want to spend on a high end luxury handbag when they already had high end luxury handbags. But what I learned over time is that women only want to buy one or two, at least middle class women, only want to buy one or two of these luxury handbags just to be on trend or to use as a status symbol. But otherwise, they want the rest of their handbags to be a lot more affordable. And so I thought of how can I make my handbag less pricey, but still keep the same quality. And all my life, I've been going thrifting. I've always thrifted. You know, I always, what people say, mix high and low, inexpensive, what's expensive. It's something that just came natural for me. It's the way I grew up. My mom always took us to thrift stores and also took us to the mall, you know? And so I've always been a thrifter. And at least in the late 90s, early 2000s, you can always find fur coats and leather clothes and for really cheap, two, three, four, $10. And so I realized that I can just instead of going to my leather supplier and getting these high end beautiful leathers, I can just repurpose the leathers and the furs that I'm finding in thrift stores into handbags. In this way, I'm keeping these things from ending up in the landfill, but also I'm able to make and design handbags that um, did not cost me an arm and a leg for the supplies. You know, the leather. The leather only cost me $10 for a leather trench coat, as opposed to buying a $200 cowhide. Now I can make many bags from that one $10 trench coat and bring down my price considerably. And not only that, but I'm able to keep all the elements from the original trench coat so that it has a history, it has a story, and people love that, to the extent that people start sending me their leather coats, their leather clothes that they were no longer wearing for me to upcycle them into bags for them. And so that's how I got started, and that's how I continued for 20 years, just taking leather from thrift stores, things that are discarded, things that are going to be put into the trash, and upcycling them into beautiful luxury handbags, accessories, and home decor. And so that's how I got started, and that's what I continue to do today.
At what point did you realize that what you were doing had a positive impact on the planet?
I would say maybe a few years later, the buzzword of sustainability and upcycling started to make noise, throughout fashion and magazines, um, and conversations, and even at school at FIT. We started getting classes on sustainability and upcycling and thrifting, and I'm like, oh, I've been doing this all my life. I've always been thrifting, and I'm already upcycling leather from, like I said, thrift stores and donations. And so I realized at that point that I was a sustainable fashion designer. And so I started to lean into that by getting more involved with other sustainable projects and outlets. I started showing my work in sustainable, what does she call it? The Sustainable Fashion Week, International Sustainable Fashion Week. I've shown my work. I've been involved in different sustainable fashion exhibits and fashion shows for sustainable designers. And so, yeah, I just continue to do what I was already doing, but just combining forces with other sustainable brands. I belong to a sustainable fashion group called Remake, where we are all on WhatsApp and we share resources and opportunities with one another. And so, yeah, once I realized what I was doing was good for the planet, I just really leaned into it. I started teaching others how to become more sustainable, and that led to my current business, which is Eco Fashion Lab, where I run an online community where people learn to make what they wear. And so each month is a different challenge. The first month was September. We learned how to sew. I taught sewing every week in September. And then in October, I brought in other artisans and designers to teach textile design. So they learned how to paint on fabric, how to do block printing, how to do dyeing. And this month is metalsmithing. And so tomorrow I have an artisan who um, has been making beautiful metal jewelry for over 2 decades. He has his work on people like Mary J. Blige and Rihanna have been photographed wearing his work. And he is a very good friend of mine, and he's going to be teaching how to make metal jewelry. And so each month we do something different. December is all going to be about knitting. And students are going to learn how to make their own knitted scarves and their own knitted sweaters. And so each month you learn a different skill so you can learn to make the things that you wear so that you are doing less consumerism. And consumerism obviously only leads to more waste. So the less you buy, the less you waste. And the more you make things that you love that are custom made to you and your liking, the less likely you're ever going to throw it away. If anything, you might pass it on to a loved one, but you're never going to throw it in the trash. And so I believe for me, because I'm now a teacher, my mission is to help people learn to make what they wear so that they become a lot more sustainable in their livelihood as well.
While you were talking, the only question that popped in my head is, why are we not in the same country?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm really wondering. I try to do this whole custom things a lot of times. I think the last time I went out to buy a new dress, that was in September. I think it was in September.
Very
I
good.
got a new pink dress, but the moment I got back home and I wore it, I realized, well, I didn't like the fit actually. So it became a
Mm,
problem. I thought of
yeah,
returning it back to the store where I had bought it, but on a second
good.
thought, I was like, there's no need. I'll just keep it until I find someone I could give it to. So I
Okay.
don't know. There's this flush of creativity that comes from me sometimes. I got creative really, and I made like a kind of I don't know what I don't know like the tailoring term to call it, but like
Okay.
when you make some sort of steps on a dress, so it
Oh,
makes,
like CD?
yeah, more like pleating, but not vertical, like horizontal
Oh,
pleating.
horizontal.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
made her an horizontal pleating by the left
To make
side
it shorter.
of the dress. Yeah, it made it shorter, and now I wear it as a blouse. Oh my goodness, I wore it last
I,
Sunday to church. It was looking so gorgeous. I
ah,
loved it more. You know,
I love
so I can just imagine what your students get to experience every day when they take the regular clothing you get in the boutique and then you turn it into something that really matches
something
your
custom.
very taste. Everybody was just
Yeah,
like, "Where'd you get the blouse? Where did you get the blouse?" I'm like,
right.
if only they knew it's not a blouse but a gown. They
Right.
wouldn't
Yeah, I
know.
love that.
They
Oh,
wouldn't
and
know.
that term is called ruching.
Ruches.
Yeah, when you make the
Imagine.
horizontal. Yeah, it's
I'm
called
not in your
ruching.
class yet, but I'm really learning a lot. Russian.
Yeah.
Wow. So
You got it.
I'm really trying when I try to like maybe up what like up design, if there's a word like that. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is like make my clothes better than they are. I just anything that has to do with sewing, I take it to the tailor. So I just explain to them exactly what I want, and then they make it for me that
Yeah.
way.
And so that's the one benefit you guys have that we don't really have. We don't really have tailors anymore.
Oh, really?
They, yeah, they don't really exist anymore. Most people here, if we have something that doesn't fit, we could take it to the cleaners, and most cleaners are closing down. But cleaners used to have a tailor on board, and I would have to. There would be a cleaner in every neighborhood, and now you have to look wide and find a cleaner. And even then, the cleaners may not even have a tailor. Maybe all they can do is clean, but they can't do any stitching. And so, yeah, it's becoming one of those careers that has been lost. Yeah, we don't have many tailors in the United States anymore. Very few. Very few.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to my fellow humans living in the United States. I don't know how you guys are coping. I don't know how you cope. Here in Nigeria, we have tailoring is of different level actually. There are people who they don't sew. You don't give them clothing to cut and sew. All they do is to mend. We even have some of the menders. They walk on the street. They move around with their sewing machine. There's this
Wow.
mobile sewing machine that they just hang around in their hands and they hit your scissors together and you can hear the noise. You just step out and call
Wow.
them and they come in right to your own house. and mend your
Really?
clothing. Yes, they come in and mend the clothing for you. If you don't want that, because most of them they really don't know like the high end aspect of sewing and of cycling. They have really not mastered it. So if what you want to do is really, really complex, then you just take it to the tailor and the tailor does it for you. But if it's a basic mending, they will take good care of it for you. Change your zippers, make a new button for you. Just
That's
about anything.
wonderful. And I really honestly think because, I mean, it's the reason why we have so much waste in the United States because we don't have tailors, really. And so if something doesn't fit anymore or you lose a button or the zipper breaks, people just throw it in the trash and buy another one. It's a very wasteful country. Very wasteful.
Oof. I'm just gonna calm down a little bit.
It's terrible. And that's why, as a sustainable designer here, well, at least now, 20 years later, the average person knows about sustainability. Whether or not they care about it is a different story, but at least they know about it. 20 years ago, when I got started, no one knew what sustainability was. No one cared. Everyone shopped at H&M and all these fashion places, and they buy it, they wear it twice, and they trash it. And that was just life here. And to the extent that the average American throws about 90 pounds of clothing in the trash each year. And so the average American, we have what, 350 billion people here or something? Million, 350 million. We have a lot of people here. And if each of us is throwing out almost 100 pounds of clothing each year, we're killing our planet. And so I am happy that sustainability, thrifting, upcycling, all of it is becoming very trendy with young people. Um, but I feel like it's kind of too late for the older people. For people my age, they just don't care enough. Um, I happen to know two tailors just because this is my line of business, but even those two tailors, they only work with the very, very rich. They only work with celebrities because the normal, everyday middle class person or lower class person, even, they don't bother to get their clothes tailored. They just throw it in the trash and buy more fast fashion. And so we really don't have a lot of tailors. And so we don't have a lot of people that know how to sew. And so the fact that I'm teaching students how to do something that most Americans can't do anymore, it's pretty cool. It's very useful. They immediately start making money because immediately their parents and their neighbors come to them like, can you hem this for me? Can you fix this for me? And I tell them, start charging money. My students immediately start making money because they have a skill that most people don't have anymore.
So I really love the emphasis as a skill that people don't have anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of all,
In our school system, we used to have a class called home economics. You learn how to cook and you learn how to sew. In the 1990s, they took those classes out of schools. And so you have new adults who have been born in the early 2000s that can't sew and they can't cook because they don't have these classes anymore. And it's disturbing, to say the least.
somewhere in my mind, I feel like maybe it was intentional.
Oh, very much so. It was intentional, but I don't think the it was intentional because they really saw that we were going into a world where those skills wouldn't be useful. That they rather put students in computer classes and things of that sort. I get that, but as long as you're a human, you need clothes to wear and you need food to eat. This So learning how to sew and how to cook are very universal skills that you're going to need because you're human. And I don't think they thought about or cared about the repercussion of all the waste that we would inherit because people can't make simple alterations to their clothes. They just throw them in the trash.
Mhm.
They didn't think that part out. They didn't consider all of the climate issues that we would have. Right now, it's November, and it's like it recently, I think a day ago, 2 days ago, it was 80 degrees in November. 80 degrees is a summer temperature for us. We're having summer temperatures in the fall, almost winter, because of the climate damage, you know? And so, yeah, they just didn't think about the repercussion. And, and people are wasting a lot of money because they don't know how to cook. And so all of their meals are coming from delivery, from restaurants. And can you imagine how much money you're spending? I have a friend, she's a mom of five. She doesn't cook. Every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, she orders from restaurants to feed herself and her five children. She says she spends a few $100s per day on food. That's crazy to me. I spend that per week on groceries. What I spend on groceries in a week, she's spending a day because she doesn't know how to cook. That's crazy to me. I'm not judging her.
This aspects of getting people to know how to do the basics for themselves, I think it also goes a long way because, for example, the dress that I bought in September, if I didn't have the idea of how to make some sort of what do you call it again? Roofing?
Ruching.
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 Yeah.
Yes, Ruching.
Okay.
Ruching. Ruching.
So if I didn't have basic sewing skill and then I was unable to ruche that dress, I would have thrown it away. You know. So basic skills, I think it's also something that we have to emphasize on. People should learn how to make little alterations, not necessarily how to sew, but just little tiny alterations to one's clothing that allows you to wear it over and over again in different ways. I think there's another trend I spotted sometime. People they make a dress one way and you can actually wear it like two different ways. I don't know about that, but I think things like this would really help.
Hmm. Yeah, particularly if you do ruching, but instead of with a stitch, if you do it with a drawstring, this way you can make it longer and shorter at will. You get to wear it a lot of different ways.
You see? So I think there's always a place for people to start. Now that we know that there's something called ruching, my fellow Nigerians that love long skirts and long dresses, go and ruche your dress and ruche your skirt. So when you want to wear it long, you can wear it long, and when you want something short, you can string it and wear something short. Okay, two in one, double double. Let's go. Well, it may take a very long time before we get our planet back to, a good point. It will take a very long time because it's not only the fashion industry that is contributing, several other industries also contributing. So we can just do as much as we can.
Fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world, second only to the oil industry.
Yeah, people want to look good all the time, and they don't want to wear one clothes twice. And people are always pretending to be what they're not. So they keep buying clothes even if they don't have food to eat. They would rather buy a new dress because they don't want people to say, "Oh, you won that dress before and you're still wearing it again." So it's also a mindset thing.
Yeah, it's a mental illness if you ask me. People will not pay their utility bill and buy, $1,000 handbag.
You know what we call it here in Nigeria? Call it packaging.
Packaging.
Packaging, yes, that's what we call it.
I like that. That makes sense. So I don't know if Americans are ready to walk away from fast fashion anytime soon, but they are at least aware of it. And what's becoming really popular is swap parties. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm actually going to be hosting a swap party at my boutique on the 23rd of November. And so people can bring all that fast fashion and all the things, whether it's fast fashion or well made garments. They can bring it all, no judgment, and swap it out for other garments and accessories from my other guests. And this way, it'll keep those things from going to landfill. So I feel like, although fast fashion is still very, very popular, people are still able to bring in new habits like swapping, like upcycling, like thrifting, and like donating so that it can counteract all their fast fashion shopping.
I think I really like that idea of swapping,
Yeah,
but
it's
I already have a lot of questions right now, considering the whole
okay.
swap and stuff. So, what if are there like rules or guidelines or checklists that people have to go through first before they can bring their clothing? That is to check each piece of clothing that they're bringing, or do you check that yourself? Because I'm scared that somebody could actually bring a dress that has yellow stains on the underarm. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
exchange my clothing for that.
Right. So, the way I do it is you have to schedule a time to bring me your clothes before the swap party,
Okay.
and we'll go through all of the donations together. And each item that you give me has a ticket amount associated with it, right? So, for instance, if you give me a handbag, I'll give you 3 tickets. If you give me a pair of jeans, I'll give you 2 tickets. If you give me a coat, I'll give you 4 tickets. And so each thing that you give has a ticket amount that's associated with it. And so if you try to give me anything that stinks, that's dirty, I'll just reject it. I just say no, thank you. And I'll just keep the things that I've given you a ticket for. And so when you come back on the swap party date, then you're able to use the ticket to shop with the other things that have been donated, if that makes sense. So everyone has to meet with me beforehand so that I can go through all the items that they are dropping off and I can give them their ticket. And then when they come back, each item will have a tag with the ticket quantity that is necessary to buy it. So if you're trying to buy 2 pairs of jeans and the jeans are 3 tickets a piece, then you just give me 6 tickets and then you can walk off with those jeans.
I don't know how you came up with that, but it sounds very, very smart and mathematical.
Thank
Really,
you.
really. I think I
I've
would love to
gone to a
experience
few
one.
different swaps. Yeah, I've gone to a few different swaps. They all do it differently. Some people I've been to one swap where you just throw your clothes into a pile and then you just pick up something from the pile. And
Oh
there's no
no.
ticket exchange. It's nothing is hung up, nothing is tagged, everything is in a big pile on a table. I don't like that. I think it's really trashy. But some people are comfortable like that. I run a boutique, so I want it done like a boutique. It's just that no one is doing any exchange of money.
Exactly. So now that you talked about no one doing an exchange with money, this feels now like trade by barter.
Yeah, it is, except we just call it a swap party because we're going to actually have some wine and, some finger foods and some music. And so it feels like a party, but yeah, we're just bartering and trading.
All right. So this is to every Nigerian that is listening. I am very sure that this idea will appeal to you too. Did you hear that? There's wine and there's finger food. I mean, like our regular smart chops. So I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be the one who is going to organize this. But if you like the idea and you'd want to see how you could incorporate it into your business, just let me know. I'll be happy to attend. I'd love to feel that in person. I really love to.
It's a
Really.
very fun time.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful one. I think this also to an extent will help people to care more for their clothing because the way a lot of people wear their clothes, they're like, well, I don't care if it gets stained, I would throw it away. But when they know that instead of throwing it away, they could actually give it to someone in exchange for something valuable, then they just
Yes,
put more care and attention because nobody wants the embarrassment of taking their piece of clothing and then when it comes to you and you say, no, 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 I'm not taking that. That is trashy. I'm sure nobody wants that. So they're really going to take care of their clothes very well.
I sure hope so.
I wish I could see you in person because you really deserve a hug for this. Seriously.
Oh, thank
Yeah, you
you.
do. You really do. I'm so happy to hear that something of the sort is going on.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Meanwhile, I saw a video on your website. I think it's a YouTube video that was embedded to your site where you talked about checking grammar for in a different way. So when I watched
Oh,
that video, it gave me this feeling of preserving memory. So I was very, very particular. I said, I'm going to ask you, I want to know, are you intentionally trying to preserve memories for people?
yes, I am. I feel like some things are very valuable to us. You know, you can't, or you don't want to swap it. You don't want to donate it. You don't want to cut it up and upcycle it unless you are able to preserve the memory of the person that it belongs to. You know, and the truth of the matter is we can't just hold on to things forever, particularly if they don't have any practical use anymore, because we need our space, you know? When your grandma passes away and you get all of her jewelry and her fur coats and her handbags, eventually it's like, okay, you only have but so much space for your own handbags and shoes and coats. And so now you have all the grandma stuff too. It's like, where are you going to put it all? And so if you're able to take some of these items and upcycle them into a throw pillow, because you need throw pillows anyway, right, on your sofa. So why not turn that fur coat that you have no room for in your closet anyway? Why not turn it into a luxurious, beautiful pillow? Because this way you don't have to throw it away. You get to keep it, you get to use it, get to see it every day instead of putting it in the closet where you don't see it. And, you know, you get to feel close to grandma every time you touch this beautiful throw pillow or handbag or hat or whatever you turn it into. You get to, and because it's a functional object, you get to then leave it to someone else. You know, once you are on your own deathbed and people are deciding who gets your things, these things could be handed down to your children and your grandchildren. So yeah, it is for me about making heirlooms, family heirlooms that get handed down generation to generation to keep the memories alive.
If someone met you for the first time
Yeah.
and they asked you what you do for a living, but then this person doesn't have any idea whatsoever what sustainability is all about. It's their first time hearing about sustainability, which means you can't tell them that you do anything related to sustainability because they won't understand. How would you
Right.
introduce yourself to that person so they understand what
Yeah.
you do?
Um, First, I would tell them that I am a fashion designer because ultimately that's what I am. But instead of getting my resources from a leather supplier, I go and find leather that has been discarded into thrift stores And people donate leather clothes to me that they're no longer wearing. And I give those things new life. I turn them into beautiful shoulder bags and footwear and accessories, wallets, jewelry. And so I bring new life to things that are no longer wanted or desired. For one, it keeps those things from the landfill, and two, it brings beauty into the world. And ultimately, that's really, I feel like my job as an artist is to increase the beauty that exists in the world. And so, yes, you can do that by using new materials and new supplies, and that's okay. But if there are already things that exist in the world that are just going to go into the landfill and all types of issues, then save those things, preserve those things, use those things, and keep them from causing damage.
Business for a Better World podcast is brought to you by the Portio Satori Limited. Our goal with Portio Satori is to make the world a better place through the promotion of businesses that impact lives positively. We develop strategies to enable good businesses to be profitable, transgenerational, dominant in their niche, and supported by their customers. Visit www.portiosatori.com to learn more.